Going live.
Okay.
Okay, here we are. Hello and welcome to our Fireside Fridays. This is June, so this is going to be our fireside for the month. My name is Chrissy Hodges, and I am the executive director of OCD Gamechangers. I'm very sorry we were supposed to go live at noon, and I was dealing with work, so I had to just jump on and get going. But as usual, our fireside chats are talking to people who are doing really cool things around the world, bringing advocacy to OCD, bringing advocacy to mental health. And today we have Sid, and I'm really excited to hear what you're doing for advocacy, what you want to do for advocacy. You can share your story. Fireside chats are just open to whatever happens. So, Sid, introduce yourself to us.
Uh, I feel like that's as good an introduction as I'm gonna do. But hey guys, so I'm Sid, and I'll be going by that name right now. I like it. I like just calling myself Sid. So I'm Sid, and let's see. Best introduction I can give in this context. So I I don't like saying that I suffer from OCD because
Hmm.
I like I don't enjoy it either. But let's see. I'm powering through. But I've had OCD for as long as okay. Now that I know I've had OCD for as long as I can, maybe since 10. And aside from that, after my experience, it's made me more endearing to mental health, and
Yeah.
I definitely think I should be doing something about it. And um, just spreading the word, especially from I'm from Nairobi, Kenya, and
Hmm.
so I'm really trying my best to basically just get the word out there about OCD and other anxiety disorders in particular, because I can relate to that more than any other. But aside from that, I'm just a champion of mental health and getting people to know that the actions or steps you can take to be better. And I think one of those steps is talking about it. So right now it's more about conversations for me.
Well, so first of all, let's talk about
Mhm.
the mental health advocacy scene in Kenya.
Sure. Hmm.
Is there a mental health advocacy scene? So one one of the things I hear all the time is, and hey Sylvia, oh my goodness, yay, good to see you. Or I'm not seeing you, but I'm so glad you're here. So one of the things that I hear all the time are, well, there's not as much awareness in my country or my area for mental health that there is in America. I mean, let's be real. Like America, yes, there is more talk about it, but we still have a long way to go. But I do know that other countries are just lagging behind us,
Yeah.
whether that be about stigma or whether that be about culture or whether that be about whatever. Tell us what is like, and I would love for you to share with us also what it was like for you to have a mental health diagnosis if there is stigma.
Okay, that's a good question. Originally, I'd have thought that Africa's like Kenya and Africa's situation would be quite unique, but I'm also cognizant of the fact that many other places have different cultures as well, infused in the whole stigma and everything. But in terms of Kenya specifically, and I'd say to a great extent Africa as well, culture, tradition, superstitions have all played a role in kind of slowing down the progress when it comes to mental health.
Mhm.
And I think from even for myself, from a very young age, I, now that I know about my diagnosis, and now that I can pick out moments when it was like really bad, maybe like when I was 13, but then even I myself thought that I was overreacting to things. Like I thought it was my own doing, and that just goes to show, like, if that was my perspective of what I was going through, think about, just try and imagine my perspective towards what others are going through. If I'm that harsh on myself, how
Yeah.
worse would I be with regards to other people's suffering? So, uh, right now in Kenya, there is a lot of, and I think it's not even in Kenya, I think globally, and thanks to social media, there's a lot of mental health conversations going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a plus because I'm at a point where I feel like better. I'm happy that people are talking about it. The next step would probably be demystifying what exactly people think they mean when they talk about these things,
Mm-hmm.
because like I know you as well with gone through OCD as well, and whenever you hear someone say that I'm a little OCD, you're like, I don't think you're not. I
I
don't
wish
think
I
you
was.
are. Sorry.
I wish I was
Yeah,
a little OCD.
exactly. Right. So like like I wish I was a little like I'd trade whatever I've gone through for anything just to have
Yeah.
a full month of just peace and sanity. Like that's how much, And so to hear someone say that, and I had a very interesting, something interesting happened a couple of. So I was explaining to someone about OCD, and even after explaining, they still went ahead and said that they just like I saw them tilt or like arrange a couple of things on their desk, and they're like, "Oh, I'm a little OCD about this." In your mind, I'm like, I've just explained that to you right now, but then they went ahead to tell me that uh, I can't tell them what's OCD and what's not, and that's a fair. I feel like that's a fair statement to make, but
Yeah.
I feel like that goes to show how much information or knowledge there needs to be. So I feel like we're at a point where there is conversations around mental health. What I'm not sure about is whether whether the people are diagnose like themselves, like they're just giving themselves diagnosis without the proper knowledge of what these conditions or these disorders entail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, what you should have done, Sid, is just like
Mhm.
messed up everything that they organized. Like, how do you feel now?
Exposure. Yeah.
That would have been the best response ever.
Yeah.
Um, so what is like? Tell me a little bit about. Was your family open to the like OCD, or did you tell them what was going on? What about the community? Have you told? I mean, obviously, you're starting
Oh.
to talk out loud about it now,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it took me like 15 years to start talking about it because it's so shameful. But like,
Yeah.
what was that like for you?
First of all, I think I'd really credit my late mom. So she passed away when I was 13,
Okay.
and what she did is I think in our family she really instilled the culture of like being open and talking about what you're going through and basically just discussing your normal human experiences, right? And so that allowed me like whenever I'm not okay, I'm not one to shy about the fact that I'm not okay.
Mm-hmm.
More so if whatever I'm going through is not something of my own doing. So like I'll look for help. So while she wasn't there when I realized that what I was dealing with was OCD, but that spirit of sharing and the spirit of discussing, and spirit of being open, really allowed me to be open about my experiences.
Right.
So well, it's not the same for many people. I'll say that for sure. Some of the themes, of course, that that you deal with when it comes to OCD, from like harm theme, sexual orientation themes,
Mm-hmm.
taboo themes like pedophilia themes, and all those kind of
Mm-hmm.
things that people don't like talking about. But personally, as me, I'm not scared of talking about them. Whether you think I'm crazy or not, this is my experience. I didn't bring this upon myself, so you
Right.
either believe me or
We
not.
don't choose the themes.
Exactly, exactly. You don't choose the themes. Like all I can do is just talk about it. It sucks, but yeah. But I've seen like from for many other people, it's not necessarily the same.
Right.
Especially if you're dealing
Taboo.
with taboo themes.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
if you're dealing
100%.
with exactly like dealing with the sexual orientation, harm themes, and all other themes, and you know very well how OCD gets can be as convincing as God, as anything, and you're already in a situation where you're trying to compulsively convince yourself that you're not these things
Mm-hmm.
that OCD is desperately trying to tell you you are. So I can only imagine how hard it is to tell that to someone and still maintain your sanity.
I
Like,
know.
and so my what I ended up doing was just a plea for help. That's all I was doing. I was just telling anyone, like, okay, no, at least in people close to me, so that in case, I mean, because my theme, my big theme, the worst theme I think so far has been like the harm theme.
Mm-hmm.
So my thing has been to just talk about it, and at first it was compulsive because I was
Confession.
seeking safety. Yeah, I was like, okay, so but then after a while it just I find peace in humor, so sometimes I just make fun of myself.
Oh yeah,
And
but we have
yeah.
to.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's how it's been for me. My family has been really supportive, though they don't understand, like, they don't fully understand it, and I don't expect them to as well, because
Yeah,
unless you go through it,
I agree.
it seems very like, I don't think I want to put that much pressure on them to fully understand every single thing that I'm going through.
Hmm.
I just need them to be supportive. That's it.
Right.
Like, you may not understand what I'm going through, but I just need you to believe that this is hell for me, and I
Hmm.
just need you to be supportive throughout this experience.
Hmm. Understand
Yeah.
to the best that they can.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the best support is finding people who have been through it.
Yeah.
You don't have to explain. You don't have to, you don't have to apologize. You don't have to.
Yeah.
And so when we spoke the other day, that's
Mhm.
basically what you did. That's
Yeah.
what you started doing. So tell us a little bit about how you kind of dove into advocacy.
So um, about 3 years ago, I think 3 years ago was my big bad OCD episode. I think the first that I would say with my rock bottom was 3 years ago. I think I'm still wading through it. The good days, bad days, as always.
Hmm.
But then it also infused into sleep became a theme for me.
Oh my,
So from like 2019 August, I remember the exact day that my sleep stopped being the same. Till this very day, I either wake up at 3:30, or I have nightmares about my themes, or yeah, like it's been an illustrious couple of years. So one night I couldn't sleep, and so I went on Instagram, and I think I just sent out a message, put up just a question on my stories, and was like, "Is there anyone else who's struggling with anxiety and sleep?" And I got a ton of responses, and like many people were up. And so I was like, it hit out like, are this many people who are actually struggling? And most of them actually were my good friends, and I knew nothing about.
right, right,
And so I sent out a follow-up question, and my follow-up question was, would anyone be interested in a mental health support group? And at this point, I didn't know what anyone is suffering from. I just felt like it would be awesome to just talk once a week or once in 2 weeks about experiences, and maybe I could learn a skill or two
yeah,
from someone else that would help me with my experience, and so on and so forth. And guys agreed to send in their emails, and I just started a mailer where every 2 weeks we'd effectively just meet and just talk about how our 2 weeks have been and our experiences have been. And so this has been happening for maybe a couple of months. Sometimes we have good attendance, sometimes not. Sometimes we're just three. Most of the time we're just a few people, but I got to meet other people with OCD as well. And um, some of them got to let them know that there's actually help, and there's like a lot more we can actually get to recovery, because I feel like that's one of the that's the one thing you never get to learn like in the deep depth of all that suffering. You don't think that you can recover. You don't think there's a recovery. And OCD does a darn good job at telling you that you're not going to recover, that you're going to stay like this
Right.
forever. And so that's how it's become. So now currently I'm just looking forward to roping in more people. And then again, I came across OCD Game Changers, and I was so happy actually, to just get to see other people doing it and just see how else I can plug in, and more so because I feel like there's so many more people suffering. But here at home, particularly in Kenya, I'd say it's more of lack of knowledge. If they
Yeah.
knew that whatever they're going through, there's a name to that and there's something that can be done about it, I feel like that'd be a problem household.
Hmm. So I actually have a question about something you said earlier.
Sure.
Um, when you say superstition as a
Hmm.
barrier, tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about that. I know this is
Sure.
really random because you just got done with this.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, but I just wanted to make sure I wrote it down because I was like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
tell me a
No,
little
it's
bit about that.
um you I think you have to like put into context that from this side of the world, the everyday life is um like much like has a lot of, some of the influences include like traditional superstitions. For example, Kenya has 42 tribes, right? And each tribe has its own superstitions. Like if you do this, this will happen, and
Magical thinking.
exactly. But now, not even in an OCD type of way, like this magical thinking that is like real life magical thinking that people actually buy into and believe into. So I feel like that contributes to some extent in our views of mental health. Like for example, in for many I think for many people, a mental health disorder is basically being in a psych ward, right? And
Yeah.
that's involves being locked up and
Yep.
all that, right? And many people are walking around with undiagnosed, like mental disorder that are not been diagnosed, and they think they're perfectly okay
Hmm.
when they're not, and they're just projecting some of the things that they're going through. And some of these superstitions, for example, like I don't know, I can't think of any top of mind currently, but some of them that would really hinder you from actually seeking treatment, aside
Hmm.
from the usual stigma.
Stigma.
Because, for example, yeah, like some people might be in a situation where they feel like if they were to be diagnosed of a mental disorder, then that means that they're cursed, hypothetically,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And there are people who actually believe in that, and they wouldn't go and get seek treatment to seek help because of the mere belief that that whatever they're going through is through either curse or something of the sort. And that's highly superstitious because like it's not scientifically proven, and we all know that they're very OCD can be like one of the ways at least that has not been proven for a fact is the whole being cast thing. So those are some of the hindrances to treatment that I feel like might be slightly different from maybe what other areas. Some areas of the world might share similar hindrances, but that's one that I feel like maybe particularly unique maybe to this region.
Well, and I mean, I think in just hearing what you were saying is it with the magical thinking piece. I mean,
Mhm.
how hard would it be in your generation
Yeah,
to convince people actually this is a mental health disorder and you can get
yeah,
treatment and yada yada,
yeah,
which for generations people really did believe if you do this then that will happen. I
yeah,
mean, that is the epitome of the difficulty of breaking tradition,
yeah,
right? I mean, which would 1000% contribute to the magical thinking piece. I mean, so good for you for breaking the cycle. That's a big
sure.
burden.
I'm trying, and actually let me ask. I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, do you think in your journey, um, if if there was no stigma, if people treated mental health disorder like they treat uh, a flu, hypothetically, like, or any other type of illness that they easily go into, see a GP or anything of the sort, and get treated, do you think that would have made the experience a little lighter?
So I'm going to try to keep my answer hopeful. I think that I think OCD is different when
Okay.
it's the intrusive thoughts and the mental rituals because,
Okay.
Sid, it feels so real,
That's true. Yeah.
right? And so depending on the content
Mhm.
of the theme, would I speak up if mental health wasn't an issue?
Mhm.
Would I speak up and say, I don't know what my sexual orientation is, or I
Okay.
don't know, I have all these fears around throwing up, or I, have
Mhm.
fears about when I have sex with my dad, or whatever
Yeah.
else would come up,
Yeah.
or because it feels so real, it was hard for me to accept that it was even a mental
Fair
illness,
enough. Okay.
right?
Makes sense.
But if there wasn't,
Yeah.
so I guess this is a complex. You're
Yeah.
like, why did I ask this question? So, so I guess like
Mhm.
I think a lot of the answer would depend
Would
on
escape. Uh-huh.
like how ex- accepting like my upbringing would be in being able to express
Yeah.
and be believed in anything that I said. Are you there?
I think I lost you for a second there.
You
Can you
froze a
hear
little
me?
bit. Are you good?
Yeah, I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Oh, okay. You're a little frozen, but I can hear you too.
Okay, I can see you now. I can see you and hear you now.
But in general, Sid, I do
Mhm.
think if there was no stigma, which of course that's what we're aiming for, I do think people are going to be more likely to seek help, even if it's just going to a GP because they're embarrassed
Okay,
about what they're dealing with. That's what I
okay.
hope, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I hope.
yeah. I think another thing I've been like trying to wrap my head around is with OCD is there's this thing that I don't know, there's this thing I think I in one of my classes, so I did a master's in data science. In one of my classes, there was an analysis that was being done about something called, I think, the Wheeler effect. And this was the Wheeler effect is this thing where, I hope I'm right, where during Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month,
Hmm.
the certain areas where they report higher cases of suicide. So it's an instance where, like, I don't know if it's a paradox. Like the opposite happens. Like whatever they're really trying to stop from happening ends up being a trigger to more cases or something of the sort.
Hmm.
And I've been trying to wrap my head around that when it comes to OCD and OCD information, especially when it pertains to recovery. Like my experience so far, of course, I think as is for many people, whenever you get the diagnosis, you want to read up on every single thing and anything about. And I think I had a session with therapist, with Ashley, who's an amazing therapist, and she told me, she was like, Sydney, everything you need to know about OCD right now, you already know. You're living it. So please stop. Um, Trying to read and stop trying to. And one thing that has worked for me has been to cut down on OCD content. Like I've had to unfollow a ton of people on Instagram, for example, who
Stop
are
watching my
OCD
videos.
advocates. No, no, no. I watch them now. I watch them now periodically. Once in, I try and not make it a compulsion. So, and that's the other thing. I don't know with OCD particularly is how do you is finding the balance of or
Yeah.
like because OCD can in the spirit or in the hopes of trying to get to recovery,
Yes.
you can literally end up stop living your life
Yeah.
just trying to recover, and you end up doing the exact opposite of what you ought to be doing.
Yes. Right. And also, but I think also that what you're saying is a testament to our inability to give up the logical part of our brain saying, you can solve this. You
Yeah,
can
yeah,
solve this. You can, because we're so, and I say this all the time to clients, we're so used to solving every problem in our
yeah.
life,
That's true. That's true.
right? And then, like, whether that's
That's true.
experience with emotion, whatever, with OCD, it's like just this one more time, just this
Yeah,
one
that's
more
true.
article, just this one more video. I'm gonna
Like,
find the key. I'm gonna find the key.
like it's funny you mentioned that, because sometimes, like, even with moral scrupulosity, like sometimes one of my pain points is being like, I think I have a fear of pride. And so there's this thing that happens where when I do something, um, of course, with the CD, oh no, you did that because you were proud, you did that boastfully or something of the sort. And then before I knew this was actually a compulsion,
Yeah.
like I'd actually recreate scenarios in my head
Uh-huh.
and prove to myself how I've done this particular thing differently, and that I'm not in and then it would take about sometimes up to 5 minutes. So someone is talking to me, but in my mind I'm playing out different scenarios of how I've done the exact same thing in a way that's not proud. And by
Oh
the
my
time
goodness.
I'm done solving this, um like this self-made problem, I'm not even listening to the person who's talking. So it's just
How do we even get to that point?
and stopping is so hard.
It
It's
all
really
makes
so
sense
hard.
at the time, and then afterwards you're like, "What?"
I know, like it's a pain.
So, question,
Okay.
find how did you find therapy?
Uh,
Because there's not a lot of OCD specialists over there.
oh yeah, yeah. So okay. First of all, my therapy. I think therapy is like dating. First of all, that's how I feel that. I think you just gotta kiss a couple of
So
frogs
true.
before you get.
It's so true.
So my experience was, I actually am grateful for every therapist I've ever seen so far. Like I think they've carried me through a particular phase or journey of my SCD
Like,
experience.
like dating, you just try
Oh
to
yeah,
take the
yeah,
good
yeah,
things that
yeah,
happen.
yeah. So, my first couple of therapists kept attributing it to. So I lost my dad and mom when I was younger. So they kept attributing it to grief, like I didn't grieve well or enough. They might be true, but it's not particularly related to OCD for sure. There might be something to that, but that's another totally different journey altogether. And again, so I remember I actually 20 last year again had a very, like, I was still going through this bad rock bottom phase, and I remember sending out an email to you. I don't even think whether you remember, but you sent me a list of therapists who could treat like across the border because
Yep.
of the telehealth laws.
Mhm.
And at that point I really needed help. So I was at a point where I didn't know exactly how my life I don't know how tomorrow looks like, because it was bad.
Mhm.
So I reached out to send out a couple of emails asking about therapy, and unfortunately, like, therapy is OCD therapy. I don't know if it's all therapy, but OCD therapy compared to the prices we have here are really high.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so every
I mean,
time
they're high here.
yeah, so every time the rate cards kept coming back, I was, oh, so I'm definitely not getting out of this for a fact. And I remember sending an email to Beyond Borders
Yep.
CBT, which is Ashley's practice, and I think her manager at the time responded and sent me the rates. And the moment I saw the rate card again, I figured, oh, I can't afford this as well. So I guess I'm gonna, and in true OCD fashion, I'd downloaded all OCD self-help books, everything, and I
Yep.
was trying to read a book a day, just trying to get, you know. And so, actually, miraculous. I actually count this as some of the miracles I've experienced in life. This has to be one of them. Ashley sends an email, and she says, "Oh, hi Sydney, I saw your email come through, and uh, would you like you won't believe it, but I've lived in Kenya for a period
Yes.
of time in my life." And I was like, "Oh my god!" And then she says, "I told her." She says, "I know our prices are slightly higher than what you expect or what you have there in Kenya. So uh, how much would you be able to pay? Because I'm really focused on just ensuring that people get evidence-based treatment for OCD."
Yep.
And at that very moment, I don't know if she is gonna watch this or I've never told her this, but I literally felt like crying. I couldn't believe. I remember I just I quickly just put on my laptop, just walked around the room like I was in disbelief. So I go back to her, and then we started therapy. And then the first session was, so she tells me that I'm not here to make you feel better. I'm here to make you better at feeling. I was like, what the? Like, I thought this was supposed to be the miracle. Like, this was supposed to be,
This is my miracle.
this is like, okay, all right, okay. So I really lost, I really lost hope. But
You're
so
like,
I kept
great. Now I
listening.
hate her.
I know, like, you're supposed to be you're my guardian angel right now. Like, you're not supposed to be doing this, you know. And so we go through therapy, and she tells me about ERP, which is opposite of what you expect,
Yes.
because you're so
Yes.
used to trying to save yourself
Yep.
from the thoughts and the anxiety, the uncomfortable feelings. But here she is telling you that you need to sit with, like, to be able to feel better, you need to be able to sit with them, and you need to be able to you should trigger yourself on purpose. And that felt mad.
I know. I know.
And you can imagine, like, the first scripting session we had, where she told me to, what are my worst thoughts, and she'd type them out, and she'd tell me, okay, now I want you to record yourself um saying those things, that you like saying that you're gonna do those things, and
Mhm.
play it to yourself 10 times a day back to back. I'm like, are
You're like,
you,
who's this crazy American?
like, I want to get better. Like, I kept like, you sure? Like, I need to, like, I want to get better.
You
And
sure?
yeah, and yeah, so it's a journey of patience. If anything, OCD, I guess, if I'm supposed to get anything out of this, it's probably to be more patient in life.
Mhm.
I guess that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I mean there are little benefits that come out of having OCD. And just so everyone knows, and they're watching, Ashley Instead is an amazing human being. She's been on the OCD Gamechangers board for years, and her, promotion for her practice is Beyond Borders CBT, and she's
Yeah,
pretty freaking awesome. So, and she did go over to Kenya, like, to start internet cafes or something.
yeah, I think so.
Something
She
random.
did. Yeah, maybe she did all that just to save some weird boy called Sid from Kenya. That's it.
Well, that's amazing. We don't have a lot of the details down yet, but we want to do some advocacy work together with
Yeah.
Game Changers.
Mhm.
So if
Yeah.
we, what would you imagine, or what would that look like for
Okay.
you?
So currently, I'm hoping we can have a virtual event at the end of June. Hopefully, cross my fingers. Um, just start small with a small community and have it grow organically, and hopefully. So this time next year we get to have a physical event, and
Oh,
you guys can come over. That would be great.
I literally, everyone who's watching, I asked Sid, when is the coldest time in Kenya? Because if you know me, you know I hate the heat, and so I was like, what are the coldest months to come over
It's
there?
happening right now. It's
He was
happening
like,
right now.
July, and I was like, okay, we're gonna do an event then. And that's not just Kenya. I refuse to go to the South anytime after June until November almost. So
Yeah.
that would be so exciting to be able to do that next year. And just those of you that are watching, we're still kind of working out some details. We did chat a few weeks ago, and then I ended up going overseas and I'm getting back and trying to catch up on schoolwork. But as you know, City Gamechangers is very much about community. It's about creating community wherever you are in the world. Now, I know we're still a little small fish in a big pond that we need to somehow dominate as far as getting as many people as we can involved. But it's, you know, getting a group, even a virtual group, started once a month, just so you would be able to meet other people that have OCD, just like Sid was doing. Like, I just throwing something out on Instagram. Does anyone have problems with this? And all of a sudden, people are coming together, and you'd feel less alone. And that's the
Yeah.
whole point. That's the point of community. That's the point of being part of something where you don't feel like you have to walk alone.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're looking at. That's kind of the exciting stuff I think that we're going to make happen, and that's what OCD Gamechangers is about.
Mhm.
So yeah. So we are like right around time. Is there any words of wisdom you want to leave us with? Sorry, I totally just sprung that on you.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's like Stu's. That's like Stuart's. If you had a billboard, and yeah.
Oh, I know. I know. I always forget he does that, and every time I go on,
Yeah.
he always asks me that, and I'm like, oh.
Words of wisdom. I'd say life is meant to be lived
Mhm.
um, by your values, guided by your values, and not by your feelings and emotions.
Yeah.
So whatever if you have OCD or dealing with anxiety disorders, basically what you're being told to do in treatment is teaching you to live life that maybe even other neurotypical people might not even be living that way. So, like, it's just being taught to live life the correct way,
Mhm.
which is based on your values.
Yeah.
And that goes a long way in helping you in life generally, even aside from OCD treatment, because personally, I feel like it's helped me maneuver. Like, I think the reason, like for me, relationship themed OCD has like has not like has been have had episodes, but they've not been as catastrophic as other themes because I think weirdly enough, I learned to practice like relationships on a value based system. I just
Mhm.
never applied the same to other areas in my life. So yeah, my words of wisdom is we just gotta learn to live life, and we get to choose, and you always have a choice
Yes.
in what you want or don't want to do. So even though it doesn't feel like it, you always have a choice.
Yeah. And OCD makes you feel like you don't, but you
Oh
do.
yeah, more often than not. Yeah.
It's so funny
Am
that
I?
you go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Sorry.
It's just so funny that you say that because in just going over to London and then coming back, I was so like that trip was the most nerve-wracking trip. I was
Mhm.
convinced I was going to die, and and my OCD was horrible, and I really like in the middle of the trip, once I got there and realized that the plane's probably not going to crash and I'll be all right. I did think to myself, one of the first things I just said, or I said to myself, which was a little bit like ERP, was, you know what? If what if you do die here? Why don't you just live while you're here?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
live life, not
Mhm.
like you don't have OCD, but just
Yeah.
live life because that's all we have right now.
Yeah. That's
It,
true.
it helped so much. It helped for the
Yeah.
rest of the trip of like, well, I'll live life on the plane on the way back. I'll live life in the car ride, whatever.
Yeah.
It was really helpful. So
Yeah. And just like one last thing to anyone who'd love to know, to remotely know maybe what OCD is like, so that you just don't end up saying something like I'm a little OCD, is that even like imagine, I don't know what your greatest fear is. Like, imagine being chased by, I don't know if it's a huge python or or a lion. Just imagine being in like in grave danger.
yeah,
That whatever you're imagining is exactly what someone who has contamination OCD, or someone who has to keep things in a particular order, feels when they don't keep that order.
right,
So next time when you say you're a little bit OCD, you're probably not, because I don't know if there's anything like a little bit OCD, because every single instant feels like you're being chased, like you're about to die, literally.
right. All
Yeah.
day, every day.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here and thank
Thanks
you
for
for
having me.
all you're doing. And I just have a feeling we're going to do a lot of great things together.
Yeah,
So,
hoping so.
yes, I just appreciate you taking the time to come on here and share with everybody and look forward to what we are going to cook up to get involved with OCD Game Changers really soon.
Yeah, and looking forward to seeing very many more people, and yeah,
Yeah,
let's make a difference.
we're doing so right now.
Mhm.
And for those of you who watch, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your continued support. OCD Game Changers is a 501c3 and we do accept donations. That's what fuels all of our events. We've got lots of really cool things up and coming. Those will be put on our website really soon at ocdgamechangers.com. That's where you can donate. So anything helps. And we will look forward to seeing you at the Fireside Chat next month, which will be in July. And if you are going to be in Denver area, there is the International OCD Foundation Conference happening July 8th through the 10th in Denver. So head on over to their website at iocdf.org to find out more. Hope to see you in Denver next month. Thanks so much, y'all.
Like,
Bye.